Alright, so looks like Abhishek's running late. We'll just get started with the class and the verses. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Together. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Deva Rotva Devim Saraswatim Nastadre Shavatre Vitru Nityam Bhagavatasevaya Bhagavata Kamasmukhe Bhakti Before citing Srimad Bhagavatam, the very basic concept, one should often respect the basis of understanding God and Narayana, and Mother Saraswati, goddess of learning, and Srila Vyasdev, the author, by regular attendance in classes of Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost complete. So, reading from Canto 3, Chapter 22, we'll start from verse 15. The great sage replied, "Certainly, I have a desire to marry, and your daughter has not yet married or given her word to anyone. Therefore, our marriage, according to the Vedic system, can take place."
Let your daughter's desire for marriage, which is recognized in the Vedic scriptures, be fulfilled. Who would not accept her hand? She is so beautiful that by her bodily luster alone she excels the beauty of her ornaments.
I have heard that Vishvavasu, the great Gandharva, his mind stupefied with infatuation, fell from his airplane after seeing her daughter playing with a ball on the roof of the palace, for she was indeed beautiful with her tinkling ankle bells and her eyes moving to and fro.
What wise man would not welcome her, the very ornament of womanhood, the beloved daughter of Shambhuvya Manu, and the sister of Uttanapada? Those who have not worshipped the gracious feet of the goddess of fortune cannot even perceive her, yet she has come of her own accord to seek my hand.
Therefore I shall accept this chaste girl as my wife, on the condition that after she bears semen from my body, I shall accept the life of devotional service accepted by the most perfect human beings. That process was described by Lord Vishnu. It is free from envy.
The highest authority for me is the unlimited supreme personality of Godhead, from whom this wonderful creation emanates, and whom its sustenance and dissolution rest. He is the origin of all prajamapatas, the personalities meant to produce living entities in this world.
Shri Maitreya said, "O great warrior Vidura, the sage Kardama said this much only, and then became silent, thinking of his worshipable Lord Vishnu, who has a lotus on his navel. As he silently smiled, his face captured the mind of Devahuti, who began to meditate upon the great sage.
After having unmistakably known the decision of the queen, as well as that of Devahuti, the emperor most gladly gave his daughter to the sage, whose host of virtues was equaled by hers.
Empress Shatarupa lovingly gave most valuable presents suitable for the occasion, such as jewelry, clothes, and household articles, in Tori to the bride and bridesmaid.
Thus relieved of his responsibility by handing over his daughter to a suitable man, Swayambhuva Manu, his mind agitated by feelings of separation, embraced
The emperor was unable to bear the separation of his daughter. Therefore, tears poured from his eyes again and again, drenching his daughter's head as he cried, "My dear mother, my dear daughter."
After asking and obtaining the great sage's permission to leave, the monarch mounted his chariot with his wife and started for his capital, followed by his retinue. Along the way, he saw the prosperity of the tranquil seers' beautiful hermitages on both the charming banks of the Saraswati, the river so agreeable to saintly persons.
Let's go to the verse. Ato bhajisye samayena sadhvim यावत् तेजोभिप्रियदात्मनो मे अतो धर्मान् परामहस्य मुख्यम् शुक्ल प्रोक्तान् बहुमन्यविहिंसान् अतो भजिष्ये समयेन साध्वी यावत् तेजोभिप्रियादात्मनो मे अतो धर्मान् पारमहंस्य मुख्यान् शुक्ला प्रोक्तान् बहुमन्यविहिंसान् अतो भजिष्ये समयेन साध्वी यावत् तेजोभिप्रियादात्मनो मे अतो धर्मान् पारमहंस्य मुख्यान् शुक्ल प्रोक्तान् बहुमन्यविहिंसान् शुक्ल प्रोक्तान् बहुमन्यविहिंसान् अतो भजिष्ये समयेन साध्वीम् यावत् तेजोभिप्रियदात्मनो मे अतो धर्मान् पारमहंस्य मुख्यान् शुक्ल प्रोक्तान् बहुमन्यविहिंसान् अतो भजिष्ये समयेन सद्वे यावत् तेजोभिप्रियादात्मनो मे अतो धर्मान् पारमहंस्य मुख्यान् शुक्ल प्रोक्तान् बहुमन्यविहिंसान्. So the word together. Atah, therefore, vajishe, I shall accept. Samayena, on the conditions. Sadhvi, the chaste girl. Yavat, until. Teja, semen. Vibriyat, may bear. Atmana, from my body. May, mine. Atta, thereafter. Dharman, the duties. Paramahamsya Mukhya, of the best of the Paramahamsas. Shukla Prabhuptan, spoken by Lord Vishnu. Bahu much. Manye, I shall consider. Avihim Shran, free from any. Translation together. Therefore, I shall accept this chaste girl as my wife, on the condition, after she bears human from my body, I shall accept the life of the service accepted by the most perfect human beings. That process described by Lord Vishnu is free from right. So here's Kadama Muni. He's been, he's been doing austerities for 10,000 years, and then he prays to Lord Vishnu for a suitable wife. And here's the king of earth who comes to him with his daughter in hand for marriage. And he says, yes, I'll accept her but as soon as she gives birth to my, to the son, then I'll leave. And when you read this verse, what's your first gut reaction? What do you think when you just read this verse? I thought, I was like, oh, it sounds like a deadbeat.
father. It's like the wife gives birth. I'm like, I'm out of here. What else? Anything else? What? Yeah.
It makes me think, well, why is he waiting till after she gives birth to start devotional service?
That's a good point. Yeah. What else? Anything else?
It sounds like the first line, scroll up. Sounds like a very traditional, or the old romantic. Therefore, I shall accept this chaste girl. This shall be my wife.
Yeah. I guess this wasn't few yogas ago, so millions of years ago. Yes, whole time. Okay.
The process described by word said sounds like time that the father during that process of becoming a good father was described by word. So
he's actually referring to the devotional service aspect, not just giving birth. Lord Vishnu did not describe that. Yeah, the life of devotional service, that's what he.
Which is seen by those words, Paramahamsa Vyasyan.
So it's going to take pronunciation. Yeah. And Bruce. It just sounds like when the kid's born, he's going to leave. So.
Not even born.
Not even.
That sounds like he's not even waiting.
Yeah. Of course, in the past time when he was born, that Janaki. And Gopal.
I think that it's interesting that it's talking about family life.
Yeah.
And then devotional service, and it ends with it is free from envy. It makes me think that there's some kind of tendency towards envy in family life.
Yeah, what did they say in America? The Joneses? What's that thing? Keeping up with the Joneses? Yes. So there's always and Mike.
The envy refers to devotional service, and devotional service is supposed to be non-envious. Bhagavatam in general is for non-envious, but also he's not a deadbeat dad because he leaves her with big palace and a qualified son. So it's Vedic culture where after a certain age the man retires, and that's how they used to do it.
All right, let's see. Let's read the purport. Let's see what the purport talks more about. Kardamuni. Who would like to read?
Kardama Muni expressed his desire for a very beautiful wife to Emperor Swayambhuva and accepted the emperor's daughter for marriage. Kardama Muni was in the hermitage practicing complete celibacy as a brahmachari, and although he had the desire to marry, did not want to be a householder for the whole span of his life, because he was conversant with the Vedic principles of human life. According to Vedic principles, the first part of life should be utilized in brahmacharya for the development of character and spiritual qualities. In the next part of life, one may accept a wife and beget children, but one should not beget children like cats and dogs. Kardama Muni desired to beget a child who would be a ray of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should beget a child who can perform the duties of Vishnu, otherwise there is no need to produce children. There are two kinds of children born of good fathers. One is educated in Krishna consciousness so that he can be delivered from the clutches of Maya in that very life, and the other is a ray of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and teaches the world the ultimate goal of life. As will be described in later chapters, Kardama Muni begot such a child, Kapila, the incarnation of the personality of Godhead, who enunciated the philosophy of Sankhya. Great householders pray to God to send his representative so that there may be an auspicious moment in human society. This is one reason to beget a child. Another reason is that a highly enlightened parent can train a child in Krishna consciousness so that the child will not have to come back again to this miserable world. Parents should see to it that the child born of them does not enter the womb of a mother again. Unless one can train a child for liberation in that life, there is no need to marry or produce children. If human society produces children like cats and dogs for the disturbance of social order, then the world becomes hellish, as it has in this age of Kali. In this age, neither parents nor their children are trained. Both are animalistic and simply eat, sleep, mate, defend, and gratify their senses. This disorder in social life cannot bring peace to human society. Kardama Muni explains beforehand that he would not associate with the girl Devahuti for the whole duration of his life. He would simply associate with her until she had a child. In other words, sex life should be utilized only to produce a nice child, not for any other purpose. Human life is specially meant for complete devotion to the service of the Lord. That is the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya. After fulfilling his responsibility to produce a nice child, one should take sannyas and engage in the perfectional Paramahansa stage. Paramahansa refers to the most highly elevated perfectional stage of life. There are 4 stages within sannyasa life, and Paramahansa is the highest order. The Srimad Bhagavatam is called the Paramahansa Samhita, the treatise for the highest class of human beings. The Paramahansa is free from envy. In other stages, even in the householder stage of life, there is competition and envy. But since the activities of the human being in the Paramahansa stage are completely engaged in Krishna consciousness or devotional service, there is no scope for envy. In the same order as Kardama Muni, about 100 years ago, Thakura Bhakti Vinod also wanted to beget a child who could preach the philosophy and teachings of Lord Chaitanya to the fullest extent. By his prayers to the Lord, he had as his child Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, who at the present moment is preaching the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya throughout the entire world through his bona fide disciples.
So the Bhagavatam, it talks about different pastimes said in different times. And so it's always good to question, when things come up and really think about it and analyze it. So in this case, it might look like Kardamoni just, got up and left, didn't care about his family, after the kids were born. But one has to see like what the whole background was. So in the purport, it was funny how Prabhupada says, either you have 2 kinds of kids. One is educated in Krishna consciousness so that he, the father, the parents basically, can be delivered from the clutches of Maya in that very life. Oh no, I guess the kid. And the other is a ray of the Supreme Personality Godhead. So it's like either you train your kid or for a matter of fact that your son is God or a great devotee that you could be relieved and just maybe take more retirement. So in this case, so it's like if you know for a fact your kid's gonna be God, it's God, then you can leave. But if not, then train them in Krishna consciousness. So in this unique case, Kardamuni was told by Lord Vishnu himself that your son is going to be Kapila Dev, the Supreme Personality Godhead. And when Kapila Dev was born, he wasn't just born. He grew up really fast. He was God. So didn't really have to raise him in this case. And then right away, couple of days started giving instructions to his mother. Actually, she asked him a lot of questions, which we'll see, and he spoke. That's the future chapters in this canto. And so, the setting was such that Kardamuni was, and for all of us, it just shows how the Vedic system was that you practice single celibate life for a certain amount of time, till age of 25. And the idea was just to create a strong foundation for the future years for the household life. And so now he's entering household life. And that also, in today's world where there's so many movies about what's that phrase, hopeless romantics, and it's like everyone's like waiting for their perfect person, and once they have that one person, the life's gonna be completely complete, and there'll be roses everywhere, and sky will be golden, and everyone will be so happy. And so it's like in today's age where that kind of idea is so strongly promoted, one just assumes that family life is all that is to be for our human life. Like that's it. Like you find your perfect spouse, you get your perfect kids, you envy your neighbors, and you get that better job than the other guy. You make more money. Recently, my parents were talking to me, and they were saying, yeah, you just move to any city you want based on if you make more money. I'm like, that's really not how I want to live my life. Just keep moving one job to another or one city to another on the basis of just making more money. And so, the society in today's age is such that it promotes that idea that, yeah, you get your family together, you get your money together, wealth together, and that's it. You're all set for life. But then the question is, well, what about the next life, actually? And so that the world, has no information about. And that's what the Srimad Bhagavatam talks about, that it's actually we're in this cycle of birth and death. And so how do we really get out of this cycle of birth and death? The human form of life is not just meant for eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's primarily what we all do as regular human beings. Because, animals do that all the time. Dogs do that, and you see cats around here, they go pee on something and they're like, oh, this is my territory. And so, I mean, humans just do it in a little more sophisticated manner, sometimes, yeah, sometimes. Yeah, it's like you see governments doing it, you see people doing it, like this is my parcel of land, and that's it. And then somebody else comes and grabs that parcel of land, and then they fight about it for like years. And sometimes even family members fight over property, they fight over so many things, especially in India. I guess doesn't happen as much in the US. But yeah, so this propensity, this animalistic propensity of just eating, sleeping, mating, and defending is just so strong. And it's there because, it's just because of the lower modes. But the higher, goal of human form of life is to actually go beyond the eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, and figure out how do we actually, go back to the spiritual world, realize our eternal identity as a spirit soul, and realize what is our constitutional position. So in Kardama Muni, that's his point, that he does not want to make just his family life, he doesn't want to make that the whole point of his life. There's more to life actually than just family life. It's a huge part of our life for sure, and it's a very important part of our life. But at the same time, there's more to the human form of life than just having that family life. And so yeah, what else is there? What else, what do okay? So if there are people in this world, right, who do a little more than just family life. What do people normally do? What else do people do other than just family? They go to work. What else? Anything higher? Vacation. All right. They volunteer. So that's a little higher. Think beyond your family a bit. Was that? They go to bars to forget about their families, I guess. Yeah. Charity. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So charity, volunteering. It's a little higher. And then yeah, higher than that is to go to church. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's because there's dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, the four pillars of pious religious life, basically. So dharma is basically you pray to God. You say like, God, you're great. Please give me stuff. And so it has a dharma in the materialistic sense. And artha, yeah, artha is like, yeah, I want to want to work hard, make money, and then you have that money, you fulfill your desires. You go on vacation, go, wherever, and if you give a little bit in charity, on Amazon Smile, and then what else? And then moksha. Finally, it's like, all right, hopefully at the time of death, I'll get liberation because I've led a nice life and done my pious activities and so forth. But higher than those four is actually prema, where you try to develop that loving relationship with God. And there is nothing in this world that gives quite the experience of dependence on God. There is nothing quite like that. One can have all the wealth in the world, one can have all the power in the world, all the fame, but that experience of taking shelter of God and being really dependent on Him, that is very unique, and one actually cannot experience that. And that's the main goal of human form of life. And so Kardama Muni understands that, and Devahuti, his future wife, also understands it. And that's why she takes these instructions from her son couple of days. And so that's why he wants to have a have a family life and then just go on to perform devotional service. And so the main point is sometimes verses like these are misconstrued, and they're used for like, oh, just family life, you gotta just like do it quickly and just get out of here. But it's like not quite like that. It really depends on where we are at, what our family needs and so forth. Sometimes in the early days in ISKCON, 70s and 80s and maybe even the 90s, that was the move, like, oh, you have a family, but you stay really, really detached from them. Well, that's not how you perform, that ashram, the Grihastha ashram. The point of the Grihastha ashram is that there's these devotees who are, these people, with these souls in your care, and you want to do your best so that they also make progress in their spiritual life. And you do that with, with love and affection as well. And not just, take pastimes like these and say like, okay, at some point when you were just really bored or exhausted or really annoyed by your family, like, okay, I'm gonna go perform devotional service and leave my family. So these pastimes shouldn't be used in that manner. And but there will come a time, where there is naturally some renunciation, even in regular life. When people do get older, when they turn 50, they either buy a really crazy car or they downsize, when they have their midlife crisis, right? So most people, if they're not having a crazy midlife crisis, then they start, downsizing a bit. They realize that, in just in practical terms, after 30 years, the mortgage is paid and, kids have grown up and you just kind of downsize it, but you travel a little more. So there's, some sort of renunciation. There's some sort of detachment, even for just regular folks. And so what to talk of somebody who's really trying to increase their spiritual life. So, there will come a time where one has raised their family, done their part, fulfill their career. And there'll be a juncture when one has to decide, like, do I stay really attached to, building my career even further? Because nowadays you can work till you die, basically. My father retired from his government job and he's back at the government agency as a consultant. He loves to work. It's good for him to work because then he doesn't get on our case about our lives. So I'm like, yeah, go to work. But but it's like, you can just really keep working and be really attached to it. Or spiritually speaking, there's that time when you're done with a lot of responsibilities and you can really focus more on spiritual life. Yeah. For our online viewers, the million viewers we have tonight.
I want to make sure I use the right words, but when we think about the concept of coming from Godhead and the process of reincarnation, when we look at children, do you think there's a possibility where we don't have to train them because they have been here before, and honestly, like children are like the closest to supreme, so they kind of already know like what um their purpose or their mission is.
What do you think? Do you think children need to be trained at all?
I mean, when I think of like that's a plug, don't stick your finger in it. You know that
Yeah.
that's
Give them some potty training.
yeah. Um, but I feel like they're the most wisest, and that's why like when we even go through the process of um you know tapping into like our spiritual um mind or our supreme consciousness, we start to develop more of the childlike essence of ourselves
Sure.
and like surrendering to like Father or,
Yeah,
or Krishna.
I see your point. Like children have this innocence to them, right? And especially when one really advances in spiritual life, they kind of there's that similarity. It's like a childlike innocence, and the way the human mind and intelligence grows is that at a certain point, especially when they hit teenage years, then those desires or those because these souls have still traversed through millions of lifetimes in the material world, so they have several layers, and generally they haven't just dropped from the spiritual world, and generally they have a lot of conditioning. We all do have a lot of conditioning, and so especially when the child grows up a bit, then all those conditionings kind of open up even more. And so that's pretty much why that spiritual training is needed, because it's there that those various conditionings to think that we are a body, or like to just enjoy this world in a material sense, just basic sense gratification. And also, as normally kids, if they're not raised properly, like yeah, what happens when kids aren't raised properly? Like what normally happens? Go ahead. Yes, yeah, go ahead.
I think the most important thing is to keep them in a healthy spiritual community, strong family structures, and around positive association. Because I think the biggest influence, just like we learn here, is association, and that's what happens to them when things start turning left.
Yeah. What else? But what generally happens when there's no, sense of discipline or anything? What happens? Rasiga?
What you kind of mentioned it already, but I'll say it in a different way. Reincarnation means that you're carrying karma with you, and that karma is manifested as that conditioning, that material consciousness. And so if a child is taking rebirth, they're coming into the life with the baggage of the previous life, and that's going to manifest. So the training that Krishna conscious parents will give the child helps that child from early on in life to do the things that are necessary to become unburdened from that karma, which means spiritual life, bhakti.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and generally, even generally speaking, what to talk of, not just spiritual life, like if kids aren't really trained in, say, good manners or anything of that sort, then generally, then the minds are uncontrolled. Then they always. Have you ever seen people who always need to get whatever they want, even if it inconveniences everybody else? Have you ever met people like that? Have you met anybody? I'm not, I wasn't pointing at you. I was just trying to be funny. But it's like, you see these people and they just like, they throw a temper, especially when they're like 19 or 20, like, they just moved out of their house, but they're still kind of kids. And I'm not pointing at anyone here, just speaking from experience. And then, they throw a temper tantrum like, yeah, I want this. I'm like, you're an adult. Like, what the heck? No, I don't want to do the service. Can I do something else? And you're the 21-year-old, and it's like, it's just a sign of, um, just thinking of all the people who have said that to me. It's just it's just a sign of somebody who's not really trained to degree, you know, and they just can't control their mind. Versus when parents do their best to and discipline, you know, not in a negative sense, but just like, you know, um, make the kids more responsible or realize that their actions affect other people and so forth. When they are raised like that, then normally the kids are courteous, they have some decent manners, you know, they think about other people, they think about how their actions are affecting, you know, other people and so forth. So that's even just in the regular realm. So what we're talking about spiritual life. Yeah, what it boils down to really is, are the kids trained in a manner so that they'll have the ability to control their mind? Because when they do grow up and where this previous, you know, conditionings from previous life, basically karma manifests, and you know, and then their brain suggests to do something really, really stupid. What are they gonna do then? That's the question. I'm sure. Has anyone's mind ever given a really, really bad idea? Yeah. Has anyone acted on it? I'm curious. What's the worst thing you all have ever done? Ah, what's that? Is this the place? Well, this is real life. Welcome to Bhagavatam Live. I turn the cameras on you. What's the worst thing you've ever done? Try to let me think. What's the stupidest thing? I don't think I. What's the stupidest thing I've ever done? Like really wreck. Oh, if people want to speak about it? Go ahead, sure. Go ahead. Is this gonna be the stupidest thing you've ever done? Go ahead. I'll stop Inishta.
Well, I've done many stupid things, but I think
Go ahead.
I think the stupidest thing I've done was run away from home
Oh,
for a day.
for a day.
So I had a patient, I was trying to put all night, and they had their baby, and they were just so the baby's crawling on the surface, and it's trying to like grab at the equipment while trying to, and I yelled at the guy, I said, stop, like I got mad. And he didn't do it.
All right, that's so bad. You're running away, yelling at a baby, and then it's Brandon.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, Brandon. I'll trust your judgment.
All right, so I've done a lot of stupid stuff too in my life. But one of the stupidest things I did, which I eventually actually got the karma right back to me too, was I used to be straight edge, which technically is what we all are right now because we don't, you know, do drugs and abstain from all that. But so I punched a dude in the face because he was smoking a cigarette outside of a bar, and for no reason, just was like smoking's bad, and I just punched him in the face and knocked the cigarette out of his face. Yeah, yeah. He's like, "What the heck, there, man?" You know, just I punched him in the face over a cigarette, and then next thing you know, eventually later on, when I was smoking weed one time, I got punched in the face. So it came back around, you know. So I definitely got that back. But yeah, it's fun.
You sure, Jonathan? Is it gonna be like really graphic or okay? All right.
Back in the early 2000s, when I was in middle school, this very highly influential television show came out that gave a lot of the youth at that time some grand ideas. It was called Jack ASS, and for Christmas, somehow I convinced my family to get me a video camera. And so after school and middle school, for like a few months, we tried to emulate like as many of the things on the television show as we could. And I think probably the stupidest, but also cinematically the best one we ever did was we started at the top of this hill in a parking lot in a shopping plaza with the shopping cart and just free rode in the shopping cart all the way down the hill, hit the curb, through a bush, slide over the sidewalk, and like come this close to the road where there's like ongoing 5 o'clock traffic. And somehow like we all managed to not go to the hospital. have video to prove.
All right, last one, Arjuna. Mike.
Stand up.
I've eaten prasadam in the Krishna lunch kitchen before.
I'd say it. Get out of here. That's the door. You made it sound like it's gonna be so dramatic.
Kofta balls on a Tuesday.
It was offered, right? Okay. You weren't just cooking it and
It's offering
to yourself. The super soul sees it before it goes to the stomach. So, but yeah, the point being, sorry, long discussion on a question, but the point being, yeah, it's just the mind, everybody needs certain training so that when the mind does throw all kinds of ideas, we're like, we can ask this question, take a breather, and be like, is this gonna help me in my spiritual life? You know, or is this gonna do me any good, even materially or spiritually, especially spiritually, but even materially sometimes, you know. And so just to have that bandwidth. And if we don't have that bandwidth, then have the bandwidth to ask somebody who could just patiently think about it, you know, brainstorm or at least or guide us or mentor us, you know. So it really does take training. And that's also the purpose of Krishna House, where we can train ourselves to just have a little more qualities of just virtues in general, you know, like patience and tolerance and determination and spiritual life so that we can just advance in spiritual life. So yeah, I would say kids do need that, but I see your point about them being innocent. And so in later life, yeah, once they have control of their mind and really practiced it for several years, then that innocent, like you see it Prabhupada actually, when you read the Lilamrita, you really see it with Prabhupada. When Prabhupada came to America, he was just so innocent about so many things. You know, his first time in America, he was born in the 19th century, 1896, and he came here 1966, right? Yeah, well, 65 perhaps. And so yeah, he was 65, so he was 69 years old. And you know, for the first time, he saw frozen okra, and I was really intrigued by that. You know, those things did not exist in India till like even 10 years ago, like frozen foods. And he was very intrigued by the laundromat. You know, he was intrigued by how basically American life. You know, and he was very childlike about it. And one time he was one of his disciples was driving him somewhere, and I don't remember what it was. It might have been like a tape recorder or something, or some kind of equipment. And it was small, you know. He showed it to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was so intrigued by it, kept asking questions. So very childlike, you know, very innocent, very honest, very truthful. You know. So that does come. That does come. But yeah, in that gap, one needs to know how to control their mind so that they can make the right decisions that help one progress in spiritual life. And that's the whole point of this pastime as well, that Kardamuni, once Kapildev is born, he knows that Kapildev will protect his mother. And he's done his duties, and he's not going to just linger around and just, you know, he wants to just announce and perform devotional service. And not to say that one cannot perform, especially in today's age, one can perform devotional service in married life. And one need not actually renounce and go to the forest and wear the bark tree skin, you know, for clothing, as the Bhagavatam talks about, as people did in previous ages. But then the point is that, okay, how do you have a proper household life that is spiritually enlivening? And so for that, yeah, one gets really trained in Krishna consciousness. One learns how to control their mind. One learns how to, you know, do various services. When you have a kid, you got to do a lot, from what I hear, and you got to do things that you might not want to do, you know, and you have to stay. Basically, the first few months, like you don't sleep, you know, and so there's a lot of dedication that goes in there. And especially if you want to raise a child with a lot of love and affection and raise them to be spiritually strong, then one themselves has to be spiritually strong. And yes, you know, one, you know, normally according to Bhagavatam, and we can see people normally enter relationships just for basically because of attraction, you know, because of physical attraction. But that's not the role of that ashram. That's That's not how one makes spiritual advancement in that sphere, in that stage of life. One makes advancement when one sees the other person as a servant of God, and one is also spiritually fit to be able to enter that, that stage and help each other in spiritual life. I remember there'll be a little tumbler where we tumble those two rocks, and then they'll polish each other. So you need some spiritual strength. Otherwise, that's the whole point of the institution of marriage, to really help people be in a stable platform to be able to make spiritual advancement. And yeah. Did you have a point, Bruce?
I just want to say, make sure you raise the above.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Or
Yeah.
else you'll yell at
You yell at them, and it's not easy. It's not easy, So, but it takes a lot of patience, and it takes a lot of training, really, And believe it or not, living in an ashram actually does help, and for the future, to raise kids with love and affection, because it teaches you how to share. It teaches you how to care about other people. Especially, even if they're not being necessarily nice to you. It teaches you how to dedicate yourself to something else. So, yeah. What else? Any other points?
100% relevant, but on the note of training, we're all training here in the ashram. How do we stay determined and inspired? Maybe when we aren't feeling
Yeah.
so, like maybe we're behind on some rounds, or we're not getting enough sleep, or something like that. How do we stay determined?
I mean, for me, often what works is hearing Prabhupada's lectures. That really it really helps me a lot. So when I'm feeling down, I like to play a lecture by Prabhupada. Just his sound, his voice, something about it, And the voice of a great devotee, just the sound itself, even if you're not able to understand the philosophy, whatever, but even just that actually just pierces through the layers of ignorance that you're in. And but yeah, that's one, like trying to hear. But of course, sometimes it's not that easy. I would say, yeah, talk to a mentor, talk to a friend, talk to somebody that you could share your heart with. So that helps a lot as well. What else? Any other things that you all do when you're a little down, spiritual life in the ashram? What was that? Yeah, affirmations. Is that? Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Self-brand. Breath work. Yeah. Just focus on breathing. Bring your mind to the present. Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
hearing is always a process of increasing.
Thank you. And then Krishna Lila. Journaling. Yeah. What do you do, Krishna?
I really like this.
Oh yeah.
Or like, I just feel like it's so different now. And also like watching, like,
Yeah. Mm.
I don't know. It's different, like, not now.
Sure. Yeah. Do you have something to say? They said what? Oh, okay.
Process. That I didn't to
Yeah. Where? What else?
So I'm not
Mhm.
finding that like a bubble
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, praying, really, praying to the deities. I remember one time, I think Satyananda Maharaj talks about it. I think Prabhupada said that. He said that, yeah, if you're really struggling with something, you go to the deities. And so, dear, you know, in that case, specifically, he said Krishna Balaram, yeah, dear Krishna Balaram, I'm yours, and I have these problems, and so, really, like, these are your problems. Please, I'm just here to serve you, and just praying basically. I was paraphrasing. I think it was more articulate how Prabhupada said it, but yeah.
Describe prayer as asking his help.
Yeah, yeah. Dancing, yep. Especially in Kirtan. Yeah, there's many things. Let's take a proof.
I was just the opposite of doing something to focus the time, it's letting the hamster wheel go wherever, and then it gets inspired.
Yeah, it's really more actually, I think for most of us, like, our mind just really gets stuck in a loop, right? And so whatever we can do to break that pattern, talk to somebody, can, help us look at it from a different angle, or read Prabhupada's books, or hear something. Yeah. I always like it. I always appreciate when I'm able to talk to somebody. All right, it's pretty late, so we should end here. All right, Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Fortunate persons develop faith in God, spiritual remembrance, and the deity of Shiva, the roots out of God, in the transcendent of Krishna now, and in Christ now.